Hello,
How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Me too. Today I want to ask about let's compare Phu Quoc and Con Dao. Which place is better?
You can't really say one of those two is better. They're very different places. I guess I'll break them down on a few different levels. First, let's talk about the beaches, which are the main reason that people will want to go to those two islands. The beaches in Con Dao, I would say, are for sure better than the beaches in Phu Quoc. Phu Quoc does have some beautiful beaches, but also the island of Phu Quoc is extremely crowded. It's very touristy, so a lot of the beaches are dirty. If you go to the north end of the island, for instance, there are some cleaner beaches that you can find, but there are fewer and further in between. On Con Dao, it's not as touristy, and so you can find incredible, spotless white sand beaches just 2 or 3 minute walk from town. Part of the reason they're so clean, I think, is because the locals just really respect nature. So the locals are brought up with the values of not ever dumping trash into the environment. So the beaches are completely clean. The water is totally blue. The sand is totally white, except on the northern end of the island where there are a few golden sand beaches, but they're all amazing. The beaches in Con Dao for sure beat out the beaches in Phu Quoc in terms of how idyllic they are. The second metric that I would put the two up against each other on is accessibility. In other words, how difficult or easy it is to get there. And when it comes to accessibility, Phu Quoc is definitely going to beat out Con Dao. That being said, part of the reason Con Dao is so nice and pristine is because it is hard to get to, and so it doesn't have as many tourists nearly as Phu Quoc. But to get to Con Dao, there's only a few flights a day that are departing from Saigon, and they're generally a little more expensive than the flights to Phu Quoc. Also, a lot of the year, the area around Con Dao is sort of stormy, so flights might be canceled. The airport on Con Dao only has, I believe, one gate. Outside, you can rent a motorbike, and then it's about an hour into town down a road that has really very little on it. Getting to Con Dao is probably going to be at least a half-day journey. Getting to Phu Quoc is considerably easier because, first of all, there are flights to Phu Quoc from every airport in Vietnam. The flights are pretty cheap. Once you get into the airport, there are going to be tons of easy options to get from the airport into the city. So you're not going to have to rent your own bike. If you want to get a taxi, you will have no trouble with that. It won't be very expensive. Phu Quoc is definitely easier to get to than Con Dao. It wins in that category. The third category is the amount to do on the island. What are the attractions like? And in that category, I would say that Phu Quoc wins out. It has a lot more to do. But Con Dao sort of wins out if you're looking for purely natural attractions, because Con Dao is a natural wonderland. 80% of the island is covered by a national park. So there are tons of lush green forests with lots of mountains to explore. And there is a motorbike loop on the southwest part of the island that you can rent a motorbike or an e-bike and drive around. Along that loop, there are a lot of places to stop. There are beaches, there are lighthouses, there are some other attractions like an ancient tree or an ancient well that are very interesting. There are one or two viewpoints along that loop that are just incredible. At the end of the loop also is a really great point to watch the sunset. So just taking the day to ride around that loop is a fantastic activity. Going on some of the hikes around Con Dao is really fun. Going to the beach. There are fishing trips. There are snorkeling trips. The snorkeling there is not great, like in most of Vietnam. Those are kind of the activities on Con Dao. Again, not that many, and they're all nature based, but the nature is amazing. On Phu Quoc, on the other hand, the activities still mostly have to do with nature, but there's a lot more infrastructure. There's a cable car that goes over the bay in Phu Quoc. Absolutely amazing. There's Vin Wonders Phu Quoc, which is the best amusement park in Vietnam. It also has an incredible safari park, which is kind of like an ecologically friendly zoo. It has malls and movie theaters to explore, lots of great foods that actually come from Phu Quoc, like bún quai, bún kén, that are delicious. Phu Quoc has a lot more civilization to explore there, a lot more tourist attractions that are actually built up attractions rather than just exploring nature. If you're into always having easily accessible things to do, there is a lot more to do in Phu Quoc. But if you're into natural exploration and kind of forging your own path, then I would say Con Dao's attractions might win out.
People who prefer resort travel want to go to Phu Quoc, and people who prefer explore travel prefer Con Dao.
Exactly. Resorts. Phu Quoc has a lot of resorts, and Con Dao is a lot better for exploration, adventure travel. That's another thing I didn't mention. The places to stay in Phu Quoc are a lot more comprehensive. They have everything from cheap $5 a night hostels to really nice resorts that cost hundreds of dollars a night. Con Dao mainly has mid-range $30 hostels and guest houses. And then also it has a few really nice resorts. Actually, the probably most expensive resort in Vietnam, also voted the most romantic honeymoon hotel to stay in Southeast Asia. It's on Con Dao. It's called Six Senses Con Dao. I can't tell you what that's like because they wouldn't even let non-guests near the resort. But I guarantee you, it's pretty nice.
Phu Quoc and Con Dao, which one is more safer?
Con Dao was incredibly safe when we went there. That was one of the things that stuck out the most. Apparently, there's very little crime, even petty crime, because everyone on the island knows each other. I suspect that's similar thing with most small islands the size of Con Dao. Phu Quoc is a lot bigger, so there's a lot more crime there. It felt like in Con Dao, people were raised with stronger morals when it came to protecting the environment and also just protecting community. It felt very safe.
And about the food experience, which place the food is better or more expensive?
Like I said, I love Phu Quoc food. It's also pretty cheap, and I cannot say the same for Con Dao. Almost everything is brought in from the outside, and that makes the food more expensive.
Can you rate the point for Phu Quoc and Con Dao? How many out of 10?
For me, for my preferences, and I like natural destinations, I like adventure travel, I would give Con Dao honestly a 9 out of 10, 9.5. I love Con Dao. It's one of my favorite vacation spots that I've been like in my life. I would say I like Phu Quoc as well, but I would give it maybe a 7 out of 10. It's just a lot of parts of it they do feel a little bit over touristed, but it's a very diverse island. There's a lot to do there. You can go to places that feel like the inner city and it's very exciting and there's a lot going on, but then you can also go to quiet, peaceful, relaxed beaches. I like that about Phu Quoc a lot, but I would say, for me, I enjoyed Con Dao better.
Thank you for your time today. Let's talk about another topic soon.
See you tomorrow.
See ya.